Yogah Karmasu Kaushalam.
He has worked as a resource person at state and national level, seminars and workshops, and he has conducted many workshops at the university level also. He has given lectures at KCG, and he has been resource person in various orientation and refreshment programs. He has been invited as guest lecture in various colleges and universities. He has also been appointed as the Board of Studies in Indian Institute of Teacher Education, Bhavnagar University, and Kellerex University. And he was former member of Academic Council of Baba Saheb Ambedkar Open University. Uh, this rich biodata, this is a summarized version of his rich biodata. I'm pleased to introduce him to be the resource person, sir. I hope we will have a very enlightening session from you. Over to you, sir.
And, good afternoon to everybody. Today is first day or what?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. And lecture number first or before this?
First lecture,
First
sir.
lecture. And we have to discuss about NEP 2020 in terms of NEP 2020. So many things are told in mentioned in NEP 2020, and if we start discussing about everything, then it will take so much time. But the major focus of NEP 2020 is at higher education is research. So I would like to talk about the research. Let us start with research. It is also necessary for us for increasing our API. We have to do so many research to gain the score. So let us start with the meaning of research. Only 1 hour is there. How much I will discuss? Let us see. Research. The term research is originated from two French words, re and chercheur. Re, R-E, re, and chercheur. The spelling of chercheur is C-E-R-C-H-I-E-R. R-E, re, C-E-R-C-H-I-E-R. Where these words were used in France during 16th century, and the meaning of that re and chercheur like this. Re means to express extensive force, to do something deliberately. And chercheur means to find out, to search out. This was the main words from which the term research, nowadays we are using that word. In some of the books it is written that research means means again and search means to search. It is not like that. It is not searching again and again. Research means to do something deliberately, to find out something new. This is the verbal meaning of research, and we want to give the definition of the same. So many definitions are there. Different scholars and different researchers have defined the research, the terminology, research according to their knowledge and according to their experience and according to the field in which they are working. But generally, we can say that research is a scientific process that is carried out with a view to find out something new, some new concept, new theory, new rule, new, we can say, equation. Whenever any problem is seen, then research is conducted. So it is a scientific process that is carried out in certain steps in order to find out something new, so that either new knowledge is generated or the present knowledge is expanded. That is research. Now we see the types of research in different fields and in different faculties and in different areas of the research. The types of research are categorized in different ways. So no universal or such a classification cannot be given that will be accepted
Hello.
by everybody. In different fields and in different areas and by different scholars, the categories of research are given in different ways. But by referring all these categories, classifications of research, we can say major three types of research are there. According to the objective of research, major three types of research are there. And according to the data to be collected and to be analyzed, two types of research are there. In this way, we can categorize research in three categories in terms of the objectives of the research and in two categories in terms of the data to be collected and to be analyzed during the research. According to the objective, three types of research are fundamental research, number one, basic research, number two, applied research, and number three, action research. These three are the major type of research according to the objectives of research. Then according to the data to be collected, to be analyzed, two types of research are there. Number one, qualitative research and quantitative research. Let us see what these are. Number one, fundamental research. The research. What is fundamental? What is basic research? The research through which any new theory, principle, rule, equation, or object is invented or developed. That is basic research. Anything new is obtained, like Pythagoras theorem. We know that before the theorem was given by Pythagoras, that thing was there, AC square equals to AB square plus BC square. That was there. But he has defined the theorem in terms of the right angle triangle. So something new we have got. Newton has given us the law of motion, 1, 2, and 3. Everything was there, but he has defined and he has given us the definition and the rules. So these are the basic research where we get something new. Like the invention of television, invention of cell phone, invention of light. These all are the basic research. Something new is got. In terms of education, we can say personality theory, teaching theory, learning theory. These all are the results of basic research. Then comes applied research. But before that, we must know that basic research is such a research that may be felt by, the problem may be felt by somebody else and the research is conducted by somebody else. It may be possible in basic research. And number two, it is not necessary that the findings of the research are implemented immediately. It is not necessary in basic research because something new is, some new knowledge is generated or some new thing is invented. These two are the basic things. Findings are not immediately implemented, and research can be conducted by anybody, whether he is facing the problem or not. The second one is applied research. Applied research is conducted to find out the solution of practical problems, practical life problems, real life problems. That is applied research. The research that is conducted to find out the solution of the problem, routine life problem, practical problem, is called applied research. And another thing, the research that is conducted to find out the solution. Listen to me carefully. Number one, applied research that is conducted to find out the solution of routine life problem, practical problem, and another thing, it is also conducted to find out the solution of the problem that is found after implementation of the findings of basic research. That is also applied research. Applied research is also conducted to find out the ways of improvement of the findings of basic research. Like you remember the television set before 20, 30 years back, you go, then what was the size of television set? And before 20 years, you remember the size of the cell phones. What was the size? Nowadays, very thin television sets are there, very thin cell phones are there. These all are the results of applied research. Television was found once only, cell phone was found once only, but the modifications are made in these two things after the invention of these things. So this is also applied research. Here also, the problem may be faced by anybody and research can be conducted by anybody. And number two, the same thing is there. It is not necessary that the findings of the research are implemented immediately. Then third one is action research. Action research is such a research in which a person who is facing the problem only he conducts the research. A person who is facing the problem only he conducts the research. And the findings of the action research are implemented immediately. And after implementation of findings, if the entire problem is not solved, then research is replicated. Research is done again. Until and unless the entire problem is solved, the action research continues. That's why its name is action research, means conduct the research and take the action. At the time, we have to implement the finding and we have to check whether the problem is solved or not. So, in action research, till the time the entire problem is solved, it continues. The term action research, first of all, was given by Kurt Lewin, K-U-R-T, Kurt Lewin. And in the field of education, the action research is introduced by Stephen M. Covey. He was the professor in California University, and once he came in India to work with NCRT, and he has introduced action research in the field of education. Nowadays, in all the fields, the action research is conducted. He has given a definition of action research, like so many persons, so many researchers, and so many scholars have defined action research in different ways. The first definition was given by Stephen M. Covey, and that was, he said that action research is a process. Action research is a process in which practitioners means here researcher, practitioners attempt to study their problem scientifically. Action research is a process in which practitioners attempt to study their problem scientifically. Then he said, why? In order to evaluate and correct and guide. Evaluate, guide, and correct the decisions and actions they have done or taken. That is action research. Again, I am saying action research is a process in which practitioners attempt to study the problem scientifically in order to evaluate, guide, and correct the decisions they have taken or to correct the actions they have done. He said that any problem arises due to the wrong decision of the person, authority, or the person who has to take some decisions. Due to wrong decisions, this such type of the problems create. And action research is generally done at local level, in institutional level. And the main thing in terms of action research, the findings of action research are not generalized. Not generalized means what? If action research is conducted in one institution and some types of findings are derived, then we cannot say that the same type of the research will be done or same type of the actions will be taken in another institution, then same kind of the results will be there. That is generalization. So here action research in Stephen Covey said that it cannot be generalized, and it is not generalized because the problems of action research belong to local level only, institutional level. So these three are the types of action research according to the objectives. Objectives of basic research is to find out something new. Objective of applied research to find out the solution of practical life problem, and objective of the action research to find out the solution of problem of local level and to implement the findings of the same immediately. Then, according to the data to be collected, to be analyzed, two types of the research are there, quantitative and qualitative. In quantitative research, the data either are obtained in numbers, numeric form, or are converted in numbers. If the data are obtained in numeric form or converted in numeric form and statistical analysis technique is used, then it is called quantitative research. And if it is not there, then it will be qualitative research. In qualitative research, generally, the thoughts and ideas of the people and perceptions of the people are studied in qualitative type of the research. Ideas or perceptions or thoughts may be presented in oral form, written form, pictorial form, in cinema form, in sound form, in music form, in any form. In the form of sculpture also, the ideas, thoughts, and perceptions are presented. And if these things are studied, then it is called qualitative research. It is not necessary that if we are conducting qualitative research, then numeric analysis cannot be done. It may be possible, but not always. But in quantitative type of the research, the data are either obtained in numeric form or are converted in numeric form or data analysis, and some statistical techniques are used in it. Now we come to the research method. These are the research types of research. Now we come to the research method, that is also known as research design. What does it mean? Research method or the design is a layout. Research method or a design is a layout of the activities to be carried out after deciding the objectives of research till the analysis of data. These two are the extreme points for research design and research method. Again, research method or research design is a layout of the activities to be carried out during the research after deciding the objectives of research till all the activities between decision formulation of objectives and analysis of data. Whichever activities are carried out, the layout of these activities show the method, decides the method of research, decides the research design. So research method is a part of research. Now we come the types of research method. Again here, in different books, in different areas, by different scholars, by different researchers, research methods are categorized in different ways, in different faculties, in different disciplines. The research methods are categorized in different ways, because all the methods are not used in all the disciplines. But it is not like that all the methods cannot be used in all the disciplines. But in certain disciplines, certain types of the methods are used and proposed or suggested by the scholars and the people of that field. By referring all the categories given by different scholars and researchers, research methods can be categorized in 3 categories. Number 1, experimental research. Number 2, historical research. Number 3, descriptive research. Again, number 1, experimental research. Number 2, historical research. Number 3, descriptive research. In descriptive research, 4 kinds of researches are there. 4 categories, subcategories are there in descriptive research. Number 1, survey research. Number 2, content analysis. Content analysis. Number 3, interrelational research. Interrelational. And number 4, developmental research. Again, main categories are experimental, historical, and descriptive. And descriptive has 4 other subcategories: survey, content analysis, interrelational, and developmental research. Interrelational research has also 3 subcategories. Interrelational research has also 3 subcategories, and these 3 are case study, number 2, who is presenting here? Pandit, why are you sharing your screen? Okay. Number 1, case study. Number 2, correlational. And number 3, causal comparative. Causal, C-A-U-S-A-L, causal. Causal comparative. Causal comparative is also known as ex post facto design. EX, post facto design. So these 3 are the subcategories of interrelational kind of research. And developmental research has 2 approaches. 2 approaches are used in developmental research. Number 1, longitudinal, and number 2, cross-sectional. So these are the major categories. Again, I am repeating. Number 1, experimental research. Number 2, historical research. Number 3, descriptive research. Descriptive research has 4 categories, subcategories: survey, content analysis, interrelational, and developmental. Interrelational has 3 subcategories: case study, correlational research, and causal comparative, that is also known as ex post facto design. And in developmental research, two approaches are used, and those are number one, longitudinal, and number two, cross-sectional. So these are the major categories, and some qualitative kind of research are also there, like ethnographic research, narrative research, then grounded theory is there. These some other kinds of research are also there, which are generally used in qualitative kind of the researches. Now, let us discuss about all kind of the research. Number one, we start with experimental research. First of all, we should know what is experiment. Experiment is the observation of the impact of experiment is a observation of the impact of some factor on some particular traits or characteristics. Experiment is an observation of the impact of some factor on some particular characteristics or attribute. That is called experiment. And whenever we try to understand the impact of some variable characteristics on another variable characteristic, then either it will be experimental research or causal comparative research. Again, in experiment, the impact of some factor is observed on some particular attribute or the characteristics, and the factor impact of which is to be observed. The factor impact of which is to be observed is called independent variable. Independent variable in experiment. Either it is called independent variable or the treatment. In some cases, it is also known as treatment. When we should say independent variable, some logics are there, and when should we say the treatment, some logics are there. But here you try to understand that the factor that impact of which is to be studied or to be observed is called independent variable, and the variable characteristics or the attribute on which the effect is going to be observed is called dependent variable. So in experimental study, the impact of independent variable on dependent variable is observed. After the observation of such impact, the decision is taken whether there is any kind of independent and any kind of relationship between independent variable and dependent variable is there or not. In experimental study, we try to establish some kind of we try to check the kind of relationship between independent and dependent variable. It means in experimental studies, the cause and effect relationship between independent and dependent variable is studied. The researcher tries to find out if any kind of relationship is there or not between the independent and dependent variable. If the impact of independent variable is observed, then he declares that there is cause and effect relationship between independent and dependent variable in experimental studies. The main thing in experiment that I have forgotten, that the observation is done in controlled situation. So now we can say that the experiment is an observation of independent variable on dependent variable in controlled situation. In controlled situation, we have to create controlled situation to conduct experimental research. And why? Because when we try to know the impact of independent variable on dependent variable, then so many other variables may be there that may affect the dependent variable, but they are not our focus of study. We don't want to check the impact of other variables, but they have ability to impact on dependent variable. We want to study the impact of independent variable, but some other, especially in social sciences, education and psychology, so many such variables are there which may affect other than our independent variable. So many variables are there which may affect the dependent variable when we conduct the experiment. So if we want to know the clear and precise impact of independent variable on dependent variable, then we have to control all other variables that may affect the cause and effect relationship between independent and dependent variable. Such other variables are known as extraneous variable, confounding variable, moderator variable, intervening variables. These all are other variables which are not in the focus of our study, but they are having ability to affect the dependent variable along with our independent variable. So to avoid the impact of such variables, we have to control the situation during experimental research to find out the precise and real impact of independent variable on dependent variable. In that sense, the experimental design are categorized in 3 categories in terms of maintaining this situation, in terms of the controlling the situation. 3 types of the experimental designs are there. Which are those? Let us see. But before that, again I am saying the pure and true experiment cannot be conducted in the fields where human beings or living beings or atmosphere is involved. That true experimental design cannot be used. The 100% controlled situation can be created only in the basic science, especially in physics. In physics, we can control all the situations, but in human sciences, humanities, social sciences, psychology, education, sociology, we cannot control all the situation. And if we can control the entire situation, all the variables other than our independent variable, then we can apply true experimental design. So again, in terms of controlling the situation, 3 types of the experimental design are there. Number 1, pre-experimental design. Number 2, true experimental design, true. And number 3, quasi-experimental design, quasi. Pre-experimental design, true experimental design, and quasi-experimental design. Pre-experimental design, what does it mean? The experimental research in which either extraneous variable cannot be controlled or ignored. That is pre-experimental design. The control situation cannot be created there. No attempt is made to control all such variables which may affect the dependent variable. If such design is applied, then it is called pre-experimental design. Then comes true experimental design. The experimental design in which all the extraneous variables are controlled and the validity of experiment is maintained, it is called true experimental design, where all other situations can be controlled, or all other variables other than independent variables that may affect the dependent variable can be controlled, then it is called true experimental design. And in true experimental design, the internal and external validity of experiment are maintained. What does it mean, internal validity? What does it mean, external? Let us discuss afterwards. But in true experimental design, both the kinds of validities are maintained, and all other variables can be controlled. And in total controlled situation, the experiment is conducted. And another one is quasi-experimental design. Quasi means similar to, like to, not identical. Quasi means something like something, some other thing. Similar kind of, not identical kind of. That is quasi. The element that has some characteristics of some another, but not all the characteristics, that is called quasi. So quasi experimental design is such a design in which some factors can be controlled, some variables can be controlled, but not all. That is quasi. So it has some characteristics of true experimental design and some characteristics of pre-experimental design. Again, three types of the design are there in terms of three types of experimental design in terms of maintaining internal and external validity of experiment. What does internal and external validity of the experiment? Let us discuss about that. But before that, we must know any experiment has two main objectives that we have to remember. Any experiment has main two objectives. Number one, to measure clear and precise impact of independent variable on dependent variable. That is first motto of any experiment. To measure clear and precise impact of independent variable on dependent variable. And number two, to generalize the findings of experiment. To generalize means if the research is conducted and some kind of the findings are derived, then experimenter says that this kind of the findings will be there in future also, in another place also, if same kind of the activities will be conducted. That is generalization. In advance, he can say if this type of the activities can be conducted, will be conducted, then this kind of the result will be there. This is generalization. So, two main objectives are there of any experiment: to measure the precise and clear impact of independent variable on dependent variable, number one, and number two, to generalize the findings of the experiment. If any experimental design has an ability to maintain these two types of the objectives, to realize these two objectives, the experimental design that has an ability to realize these two types of the objectives, then it is called true experimental design. If the clear and precise impact, listen to me carefully, if the clear and precise impact of independent variable on dependent variable cannot be measured due to any reason, then internal validity of experiment cannot be maintained. So internal validity of experiment is the ability of experiment to measure the clear and precise impact of independent variable on dependent variable. That is internal validity. And what is external validity? the ability of the experiment to generalize the findings of research is called external validity. If findings cannot be generalized in the same way, then we can say that that particular experiment does not maintain the external validity. It means internal validity belongs to the precise and clear measurement of dependent variable, impact of independent variable on dependent variable, and external validity belongs to the ability of the experiment to generalize the findings. So these are the little description about the experimental research. Again, I am repeating everything in terms of experimental research. Experiment means observation of independent variable, observation of the impact of independent variable on dependent variable in controlled situation. The main motto of experiment two are there. Number one, to measure clear and precise impact of independent variable on dependent variable, and number two, generalize the findings of research. If first motto is not realized, then internal validity is not maintained, and if second objective is not realized, then external validity is not maintained. In terms of maintaining internal and external validity, three types of the experimental design are there. And number one, pre-experimental design is where no efforts are made. No efforts are made to maintain internal and external validity. Number two, true experimental design, where both kind of validities are maintained, controlled situation can be created. And quasi-experimental is something like experimental design, and some true experimental design, something like pre-experimental design. It has some characteristics of true experimental design, some of pre-experimental design. Quasi means like something, not identical, but similar to something, that is quasi. Now we come to the historical research. What is history? History is the record of remarkable past event, record of the remarkable past events that have some remarkable impact on the nature or human or living being. It is history. So in historical research, past events are studied. Different sources are used for that. In historical research, data are not created by the researcher, but before conducting the research, the data have already been created in the past by somebody. So if such past events are studied, then it will be experimental research, historical research. It may be qualitative also, it may be quantitative also. Then we come to the descriptive research. Descriptive research studies the present situation, current situation, what exists at present. It has nothing to do with history, descriptive research. And in descriptive research, no controlled situation is created. But the present situation, what exists at present, that is studied in descriptive research. In that we have seen four categories, one survey. The survey research is such a research in which the opinions of the people or their beliefs, data in the forms of the opinions or the beliefs of the people are conducted, obtained, and analyzed, and what they are thinking in terms of some particular variables at present, that is found out in survey research. In terms of survey research, you must remember in most of the cases, I have seen that the people conduct survey research and compares the data in terms of certain variables and declares that there is significant difference between these two. See, whenever we say that there is significant difference between these two in terms of this variable, then it is not survey. Because in survey, dependent and independent variables should not be there. But if you are doing survey research in this way, in your field, in your faculty, then okay, no problem, you do. If it is allowed, then do. But try to understand the concept of the survey. It studies the beliefs or the opinions of the people in terms of the present situation. And whenever we say that there is significant difference, means significant, when we say that significant difference is there, it means we say that there is some impact of independent variable on dependent variable. It means we are trying to establish cause and effect relationship between such two things. The cause and effect relationship may be established only in experimental research or in causal comparative research. In descriptive research, one method is there, causal comparative, where we can say that there is significant difference between these two or not. And in that, we can say that we can find the cause and effect relationship between independent and dependent variable. Causal comparative research method is developed for only for that the situation in which the experiment cannot be conducted, but we want to establish cause and effect relationship between independent and dependent variable. Then instead of experimental research, we have to conduct causal comparative research. We will see it later on. Now come to the survey. In survey, generally comparison between variables should not be there. If it is there, then no significant difference should be found in that. Second one is content analysis. Content analysis research method is applied to analyze communication material. Communication material. Any communication material, whether it will be in the form of literature, whether it will be in the form of music, whether it is in the form of sound, whether it is in form of pictures, everything communicates something, and the thoughts of some people are presented in all such things. If this type of the material is analyzed, then it is called content analysis research method. And number 3, interrelational research method. Interrelational research method is a method in which the factors of something, the impact of some factors on some another thing is studied. The relationship between two or more variables are studied. In interrelational research method, the interrelationship among the factors or among two or more variables, interrelationship between such things is studied in interrelational research method, in which case study is there, correlational research method is there, and causal comparative research method is there. But we have to remember that in interrelational research method, the interrelationship between the variables is studied, but not in experimental manner. Number 1 is there in case study. What is case? anything that has peculiarity is a case. It may be a person, it may be an institution, it may be any place, it may be any event, it may be any incident like Pulwama attack, like surgical strike. These are the specific events, the case study of that can be done. So person, institution, thing, object, event, situation, place, these may be considered as the case for research, but it has some peculiarity. It must be different from others in its own group in some sense. That is case. And in case study, what is actually done? The present situation of that case is studied, number one. And number two, the main thing, the cause, the factors that bring that case at present situation are also studied. The main thing of case study is how this particular case is in this situation at present. The reasons, the cause, the factors are studied in case study. The strength of the case, the weaknesses of the case are studied in case study. And some remedies are suggested. Some remedies are suggested to the case for the improvement during case study. And after suggestion of remedies, after some times, again, the case is consulted or visited if institution is there, and it is tried to see whether the remedies suggested were implemented properly or not. If it is implemented properly, then the improvement is found or not. If it is found, then okay. If it is not found, then what were the reasons the expected improvement is not found? That is studied. If the remedies are not implemented, then the reasons of not implementation of that remedies are studied. So case study is a typical kind of interrelational research where the cause or the factors, relationship between the factors that is responsible for the present situation of the case is studied. So it is categorized in the interrelational kind of research design. So interrelationship among the factors are studied, is studied. Then second one is cause and correlational research method. Correlation. What is correlation? What is time? 3 to 4, na? Anjali ji, she is there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
3 to 4. Only 2 or 3 minutes are left, I think. So till here, now I stop here. If any question is there, then ask. If the remaining things will be discussed next time, if the opportunities will be given. Otherwise, we have to stop here. And any question is there, then you may ask.
On behalf of all the participants, I take this opportunity to thank Professor Satish sir, his valuable insight into what is research, types of research, research design. I think this is a step ahead in our understanding. The session was very informative and very well elaborated. So thank you, sir. Thank you, and we wish that we have more sessions of yours so that we can complete the topic. Thank you all.